Yeah, so this might be a first for some of the viewers. This is definitely a first for me as well, trying to keep track of who's drafting what and when. But we do see that the red side gets the first pick, and the Orianna first pick coming in makes perfect sense. And it seems that AL is sparing no remorse in this draft, just immediately answering with the Varus Jarvan, and I really like that, you know, with the Orianna having the immobility. It sounds like the coach had a perfect plan. Allow that Orianna first pick to be a possibility and just snap it up with the Jarvan, who has actually been rising in prominence quite a bit lately. I would not be surprised one bit if we see a Profane Hydra on this Jarvan, maybe even an Axiom Arc. We've been seeing a lot of this Jarvan build. It has been super popularized in solo queue. And honestly, if you're not building those items on Jarvan, it seems like you're kind of missing out. So we'll see if that's what we get.
2 against 2 immobile backline carries. Certainly something in the cards for Tarzan, who definitely is known for playing things on the aggressive end. It's going to be Photic locking in the Sivir, a nice safe backline carry. Very similar style as to what we saw him go on during his Demacia Cup run. Going to be going alongside Jwei's Alistar, a nice playmaker. And it could be finally Shanks' Azir to go matched up.
Shanks versus Rookie, and it should be upper hand AL just because I think this pairing is so effective. Your flag is able to give Azir more attack speed so that he does even more damage, and you have 2 champions who just completely punish the lack of flash and the lack of mobility, which is going to be coming in for Orianna and Sivir. And so, for example, you can go for a combo along the likes of maybe Jarvan goes in first, drops the Cataclysm, Orianna flashes away, and then Azir scoops her up and shuffles her, you know, with maybe his flash if necessary, or it could be vice versa. You have 2 champions who can just completely work together in tandem and punish immobility, and they also buff each other's damage. And so this is a really strong pairing. I mean, Orianna is going to probably win out in the early stages just with Scorch and with her early laning power, but if Azir can just go somewhat even, make it to the mid game, make it to Nash's Tooth, this combo is definitely going to favor AL.
And Tarzan and Shanks, obviously a ton of experience playing together from last year. Jwei and Rookie just split number 3 together as a mid-jungle duo. But, of course, we saw some success from them. They did make it all the way to that World Play-In series where they lost to the eventual world champions in T1. Certainly going to look to try and improve on that performance, albeit with some newfound players. Everybody else, except for Jwei and Rookie, different from that run in 2025 that IGU went on. We're through the second phase of bans, now getting ready here for the finality of this first draft between Anyone's Legends and Invictus Gaming. A Bard lock-in would certainly be interesting, allowing for Kael to roam across the map and leaving last pick over to Flandre.
Yeah, and so I don't know about you, Grapes, but when I think Kael, I think Bard, and I think Poppy. I think he is probably the best Bard and the best Poppy in the world, to be honest. Like I mean, Keria, you know, I did just say that statement, and Keria's name just magically popped into my head. So I think maybe I'm not fully allowed to say that about the Bard, but he is undisputed top 3 Bard in the world for sure. Kael's Bard is just so good. And again, they're having it into the immobile champions of the Orianna and the Sivir. Of course, Sivir does have the spell shield, so that does net her some sort of counterplay to the Bard. But Bard's such an overpowered character these days, Grapes. I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. Bard is just so strong. He's so fast. He doesn't care about XP, and he does so much damage without even building any. So, and by the way, what a really interesting round out for IG's comp here. They take the Ambessa jungle, and they take the Renekton. So, you know, Renekton is obviously very effective into Ambessa. Well, guess what? You can't draft Renekton if we already take the Renekton. So I like that a lot. And Jwei is really good on the Ambessa. So
yeah, just played it yesterday against Weibo. Did not result in a win, but still, regardless, a good pickup for him in the jungle. Rounding things out on AL side with a Rek'Sai top lane. Flandre on this pick certainly popularizes some of these more off-meta champions up there in the top side of the map. Just going to play safe, look for those team fights. And speaking of team fights, I think both of these teams really bring a lot to the table in that department, but you got to like a lot of this dive, a lot of this heavy engaged threat that AL have in their first game of 2026.
Yeah, I mean, AL has a lot of threat here. I mean, as Orianna, it is almost impossible to go 0 deaths here against Anyone's Legend, one of the best, you know, team fighting teams in the world. You know, what I've always thought of AL is that they're willing to fight you almost no matter what. Even if it's on your terms, even if they're at a numbers disadvantage, they might fight you 3 versus 4 and just go 2 for 2. Like, they know that it's a losing fight, but they'll take it anyway because they're so good at fighting together, at collaborating, that it can totally catch the enemy team off guard for AL to actually engage on you down numbers. And so if they're this kind of team that just has that sort of ace up their sleeve and their comp is this effective at doing that, you know, with Azir, Jarvan, Bard, these champions who can just completely dive and punish immobility, I really think that this comp totally favors AL. And I do like the Rek'Sai last pick as well. That's just going to be the most immovable object of all time in the top lane, probably even more so than a Scion could be, just given that your HP bar just only goes up for the duration of the game. It's pretty much impossible for your HP amount to reach 0, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on.
As we get ready here for game number 1, the debut of anyone's legend in 2026, an org with so much promise and so much excitement in this past year, making its way, running back the roster, going up against the Demacia Cup champions in Invictus Gaming. Let's get to it here in day 2 of LPL Split 1. You take a look at the runes as the jungle camp spawned a little bit earlier than we are typically anticipating. Looks like we got some heavy trading in the bot lane though here, Fulls, to start things off. Yeah,
we're just right into the action, and this is what everybody has been raving about with Season 16, is there is just no time for breaks, as we see summoners having to be expended already as well. If we were in Season 15, they wouldn't have even started clicking each other yet, Grapes. I love this new season and how fast-paced it is, and it's just going to be so intense from start to finish here. I mean, just look at the amount of prowess this bot lane is showing here from AL with the range they're having, the Varus and the Bard. Alistar can't just match us, and Sivir's being forced to recall in the first 90 seconds of the game's game. Season 16 is no joke.
I know a lot of the off-season changes have, you know, for the AD carry position have been about adjusting for adding a lot of crit champs back into the meta, but we've seen Varus really have a lot of high priority despite some of that, and we're seeing why. The early laning phase, regardless of whether or not you're building crit items or not, always very strong on a lethality Varus. He's going with the Comet, so we are expecting more of that poke build. And when you're playing Sivir, Alistar into a Varus, definitely not hoping to win lane. And it looks like right now Photic and Jwei not in a good spot.
Yeah, and keep in mind, they're winning this lane down a combat summoner spell. Hope literally has teleport, which means it's just going to be that much easier for him to keep advantage of this lane. I like what Shanks does there. Make sure he can use his spell to secure the minion and actually have the trade be somewhat even. You know, this is a very hard matchup, particularly when the Orianna has their early game runes, which I know for a fact Rookie took every single possible advantage he could in the rune page. So yeah, I mean, as Azir here, he's even flashing the Comet to stay alive. It is that threatening. It really, really is. Believe me, I've played this matchup about 100 times, and it doesn't get much easier. So you gotta wait till level 6, and maybe Tarzan can help you out then.
Yeah, in case you're, you know, I know, Fulls, you're a little bit newer to the LPL show, but in case anybody doesn't know watching at home, this guy's challenger mid laner. You're in Season 16. He's been playing a lot of solo queue. Obviously, he's played a lot of solo queue in Korea, even against some of these LPL pros, you know, back in the day when he's boot camping over there. So knows a lot about these specific matchups, and that's a really exciting part of having you on the show here, man. Getting a chance to, you know, get into the nitty-gritty, specifically with, you know, some of these mid lane mage matchups.
Yeah, and I've probably played against over half of these players. I'm not sure exactly which ones I haven't, but you know what's really interesting is I'm pretty sure I got to meet Soboro in real life, actually, when I was boot camping at the FearX boot camp. I do believe I saw him there. He is pretty recognizable. He was on FearX at the time. I'm not sure if he recognized me, but hey, that's all good, man. I saw him on and off the Rift, and hey, I gotta say, man, he's really good.
And after that, here we are on the same stream together. We both, you know, you guys both made it. So
we made it, Grapes.
Good so far. Yeah, I mean, for Soboro and FearX, I mean, again, winners of that LCK Challenger split. I think a lot of people going in expected KT to be the big favorites there, but pulling off a bit of an upset. I think Soboro was a big part of that. And so far, struggling a little bit against Flandre. And as we say it, hey, Fulls, welcome to your first caster curse of 2026.
First caster
That's
curse,
Flandre
baby.
Picking up first blood.
I should have seen that coming, man. That's just the way it goes around here, man. As soon as you start praising somebody, that's when the curse kicks in. At first, I didn't believe in caster curses, but I've seen far too many to think that they don't exist, man. There is some voodoo magic that goes on, and unfortunately, we did do our boy Soboro a little bit dirty there. It is the way she goes. And but to be fair, he did get counterpicked again in this matchup. The Rek'Sai is just going to be super powerful up there, really hard to deal with. And even having this this really effective runes, if you've noticed there, the elixir he has, the elixir of force, I believe it's called, it's super effective as well. So it's going to get even harder for this Renekton.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the difference in terms of getting that kill or not. As now in the mid lane, we're seeing Rookie land that shockwave already. Shanks only level 5. He's able to dash back in with the shifting sands and secure a trade, but you see those minions ticking underneath the turret. Going to be a win overall for Rookie.
Yeah, you know, this is actually pretty good for Shanks, and I'll say why is because, now I'm not sure if he was super based and he immediately clicked the shop to buy it the second he died, which is what you honestly should do, is the Dark Seal. As soon as you're in the gray screen and you realize it's going to be a 1-for-1, make sure by any means you can have a Dark Seal in your inventory, because now look, even though it looks like Rookie outplayed him there, Shanks is the one who can have the last laugh because he gets to keep these extra Dark Seal stacks. That's 8 extra AP, and that does actually go quite a long way. So especially given how difficult this laning matchup is, if you're able to go somewhat even, this definitely does benefit you down the line. So I'm going to go ahead and say that was a misplay from our guy Rookie.
And big thing as well, now Rookie doesn't have his flash, and Shanks has his ultimate, and so does Tarzan. If we go for potential play down there in the mid lane, seeing an ultimate being burned by Soboro up in the top side, allows for Jwei to dash in here, steal away this blue buff. Overall, relatively even early game, although AL slightly ahead in gold at the moment. A lot of that just some of the CS leads that have been generated specifically towards the bottom lane. Hope and Kael up about 12 CS over Photic and Jwei.
Yeah, and you know, it's a really good point you mentioned that Orianna expended her flash, because guess what? Not only does she have no flash, but Azir's flash is coming up soon. Chains of Corruption does go wide as Hope levels up to 6 there, but as soon as Shanks has flash, you know, it's hard enough to survive Azir Jarvan with flash, but with both of them having flash and you not, you're pretty much unable to even exist in any sort of aggressive units at all in the mid lane. You're just forced to be maximum defense for it's going to be at least like 4 minutes here, and that should mean that AL is just going to have that much mid prio and secure the objectives they want. They already got that first Drake. We got those grubs coming up in 45 seconds. I would not be surprised if those if AL has their name written all over those.
Well, you now see Jwei looking for a lane gank up in the top side, has the public execution available, and it's going to get flashed on by Soboro. Flandre is gone. And that's IG getting their revenge on the top side.
Yeah, you see that Jwei has actually been hovering the top side for quite a while here. First, he secured the blue buff. Then he was even able to stick around for a while, clearing his top side camps, going for the lane gang. Really well played. They knew that the Rek'Sai had no flash from that earlier solo kill. And that's the thing with these kind of solo kills and with these kind of matchups is you saw that, for example, Shanks was on the back foot, and then Rookie kind of gave him another way back into the game. That's kind of what happened the same way here with Flandre. He puts Soboro on the back foot, and just by slightly over-trading and getting his HP a bit too low, now he doesn't get to keep that advantage. And if you're not able to maintain the advantage, then you can't really build that insurmountable snowball. So
now Anyone's Legend looking again for another gank, this time towards the bottom side. Photic spell shielded the initial stun, and Tarzan instead opted to use the Cataclysm onto Jwei, who does not have the Unbreakable Will, making it a very easy kill for Hope. Will be Photic also getting out. Now in the mid lane, we see some trading here as the Shreema Shuffle comes in from Shanks. But Rookie did not tank tower aggro and should be able to get out of okay.
Yeah, Shanks deciding to just expend the spell just for the trade. We see Bards coming in here.
Ooh, Shanks barely able to get away from that shockwave, and now Rookie gonna get hit up by that Tempered Fate. Tarzan dashing in with Flag and Drag, and Rookie will go down. Shanks getting his second kill of the game, and AL get 2 back-to-back.
Yeah, I mentioned the Dark Seal, and it's just increasing in stacks on there. You know, it's sort of the mini Soul Stealer. He's sort of claiming fragments of Rookie's soul here, and as Rookie, you need to make sure that you stay alive, you know, for the rest of the game here, because you cannot be giving over more of these deaths. I didn't think that Rookie had actually stepped up too far. I thought that Azir ulting just for the chunk was fair enough, but I think Rookie decided to play just a bit too aggressive, thinking that Jwei could reinforce him. But that's just the power of Bard. He's just able to be what I like to call a Schrodinger's cat superposition all game. He's just everywhere and everything all at once. There's just no way to escape this Bard. He's constantly in your face. He's wherever he wants to be, wherever he needs to be. And this Bard champ is completely able to control the map. And we see there, it completely influences that mid lane.
Now he's back towards the bottom lane, chunking out Jwei again. He is forced to burn the Unbreakable Will underneath his own tower. That is a just true testament to the strength of anyone's Legends bot lane at this point. Led by Kael in the support position on the Bard. This guy, I think, really establishing himself as the best support in the league last year, and we're continuing to see that here in the start of this series, start of this season. This Photic could be in some trouble as well, though he does have both of his summoner spells.
Yeah, I think back to that previous play where Tarzan was able to pick off Jwei, and I thought that was pretty well played by both sides there. It was some really high-level League of Legends. We saw that Tarzan was holding on to the Cataclysm for as long as he could because he knew, no matter what, Photic was good enough to not only flash the Cataclysm, but also to flash the damage. That is the way Cataclysm works. If you flash correctly, you will also evade the entirety of the damage. And so I believe Azir has no E here. He should be dead.
He face checked the brush, and he gets canceled by the shockwave from the dash. Rookie flashing forward, almost able to take down Shanks, and finally does, but could get punished for it as he had to step a little bit far forward. Tarzan with the Cataclysm onto 2, and Jwei is forced to flash away. Jwei not so lucky. He's already used his ultimate earlier, and Hope dashes up from the bottom lane and picks up his second kill of the game as AL get yet another, although it is a 1-for-1.
Yeah, you know, it looked like it was way worse for AL than it actually turned out to be because I will say you're losing the Dark Soul stacks as Azir. I know I keep mentioning this, but that does matter quite a lot. So that's definitely some solace for IG here. But as Azir, if you're pressing that Shifting Sands, that E, and you're getting interrupted, it's such a big deal. You see he tries Eing out, boop, interrupted by the Shockwave, immediately followed up by the Public Execution. All he can do here is hopelessly flash away, realizing that he is going to end up going down. And, you know, I would think that the rest of this transpires a bit more favorably for IG, but turns out Tarzan is just able to completely just sort of Cataclysm Jwei to death there. That was really effective, so.
And now we get some more skirmishing up towards the top side. Shanks dashing forward, knocking up Jwei, should be able to take him down, and Flandre will land the final blow before flashing on out. Soboro, though, with that dominance, is very tanky, but not going to be able to escape a 1v4 that AL have set up for themselves. It's another 2-for-0 in favor of your #1 seed or your best representative from the LPL last season. They extend their gold lead to 2,500.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look at our new HUD here, and it just looks like all of the quests are being lit up here for AL. They're just doing whatever it is they need to do. We see that they have every quest complete here except for the mid lane, so they are definitely ahead in the driver's seat right now. This Rek'Sai champ is just so hard to punch through. They really did try, but I mean, as just Ambessa and Renekton here, you kind of need a bit more time, and Kael and Shanks did not give them that time, nor did the Jarvan from Tarzan.
Now Flandre. You know what? Worth. Look at all the plates he got. Got, what, 3 of them? We'll take those. You got 2 kills. It's not really worth, but, you know, I'm a top laner. I kind of know the feeling.
I mean, it's relatable, you know, as Rek'Sai, you don't expect that Ambessa is going to immediately return to your lane there. Looks like Photic completely on his lonesome down here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he has to flash away, gets hit up by the Tempered Fate as well, and sets up for Tarzan to come forward with that flag and drag. Not going to go with the Cataclysm underneath the turret as Photic still has the barrier. But this Sivir has really been unable to play the game from minute 1 fulls.
Yeah, and Photic's been doing his best job of staying alive, but he's still down 2,000 gold here, man. And, oh, it looks like it was actually Orianna who was able to catch the Rek'Sai off guard. That's a good replay we see. Tarzan behind enemy lines here. I don't know if he realizes Soboro's position.
Yeah, tries to use that flag and drag, flashed away from the Public Execution, going to keep himself alive a lot longer than potentially anticipated. And with Kael into the area as well, he's healing Tarzan up, barely able to keep him alive until finally the Call the Meek does take him down. There's a shutdown into the hands of Soboro, and Jwei's looking for more. The second Q is flashed away from Hope, though, and he'll be able to get one back. AL able to salvage what was a good play from IG. Until potentially Jwei has other ideas. He's flashing forward, looking to try to take the Varus down, but nobody can close the gap just yet. Soboro with the slice, but no dice. One more auto, and Hope still stands. Jwei falls as well. Disaster for IG in the bottom lane.
And how good is this Hope guy, man? If you take a look at the player cam, he is low-key smirking from ear to ear. He knows how well he played that. First, he's flashing the Ambessa damage on the Sundering Slam with the second Q2 there. That one deals like 300 plus damage, would certainly have killed him. He completely jukes it. Then he's cutting them out perfectly. It was actually really well played to channel the recall immediately. He jukes it. Then he's cutting them out perfectly. It was actually really well played to channel the recall immediately because, you know, sometimes recall is the most effective spell in the game. It low-key mind-controlled IG to try and stop him, and that's what led to him getting even more kills just by cutting him that perfectly. Watch the Jarvan here. I thought it was kind of cheeky, but it wasn't the best look. He tries EQing into the portal to try and get out, but the Dominus is just able to clip him there, as well as the Call to Meek. And I think he could have probably just flag and dragged another direction. Look at this flash, by the way. Super well played.
Beautiful.
And yeah, Hope completely smurfing here. I do think that Tarzan did kind of grief a little bit, but Hope made up for it entirely.
There's a lot of big names on this Anyone's Legend roster, of course. I feel like Hope is one that potentially gets slept on a little bit, but he's just been a very consistent performer throughout the last couple of years. Of course, made it to Worlds all those years ago back in 2022 with JDG. Gets replaced for, of course, Ruler, and you're going to, of course, be okay with that if you're you know, a fan of JDG back in the day. But ever since then, Hope continued to build his resume back up, getting back onto Anyone's Legends, going for that Worlds run, and now looking incredible here in his first series of 2026.
Yeah, Hope is completely poised to take over this game. You know, with that quest being complete, it just means that the 80 carries are generating extra gold compared to everyone else on the map. So Hope already having pretty much a 2,500 gold lead, he's just going to be able to keep building that lead over his lane counterpart and just over the rest of IG. Hope is probably going to be the richest champ in the game for the rest of the duration of the game, unless they're able to shut him down and really thwart him, because yeah, Hope's trajectory is really bullish right now.
One of the symptoms of some of the new changes, the waves spawn in faster, you get more gold, and it feels like we've been in this game for like 25 minutes at this point, Fulls, but we're not even 17 minutes into this one. Already it's a 2-dragon lead, 4,500 gold in terms of AL's advantage, and they're just continuing to stack the leads on top of one another, pushing in for more plates. They're going to summon this Rift Herald in the mid lane. Everything on the map controlled by Anyone's Legend.
Yeah, AL is having a complete field day right now. I don't even think as IG you have a way of contesting this dragon. So AL is just going to start this up when they're feeling comfortable with their vision, with their positionings. And that's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, 3 Drakes AL, every objective so far for AL. And it just seems that this game is completely theirs to lose right now.
Looks like IG, though, still want to go for a fight, but Jwei gets chunked out before he can even proc the ulti. They get a little bit of damage back onto Kael. Jwei trying to get his way into the Dragon Pit. Perhaps an advantage of being on red side at this moment. It would be soul point for AL if they're able to pick up this Ocean Drake, but a teleport is coming in from Flandre to make it a numbers advantage until Soboro arrives. Dragon is secured by the side of Anyone's Legend, and now the fight will begin in earnest. Tarzan taken down by Jwei, and IG at least get a respite in terms of a kill. They do not stop the soul point going over to the Pandas.
Looks like they might not be done here. That's the shutdown they need.
That's on to Hope, and that's a big kill picked up for IG, and Jwei's looking for more at the end of the day, and the moment that they needed him most, it is Rookie to step up, finding a big ulti onto the main carry of AL, and salvaging what was a disastrous set of events.
Yeah, honestly, as AL, you're really thankful you got that Drake, because you almost just threw like the entire game right there. Just being able to give away all that gold and XP and shutdowns over to IG. Had IG also gotten that Drake, they'd be in a completely fine situation right now. But AL still has that win condition set up here. Really well played by Tarzan to win the smite fight, but at what cost? Again, Soboro, who else? Getting the point and click stun, one-shotting Tarzan. It feels like that this Renekton has been chasing this Jarvan around the map all game. Hope decides to go this way towards the mid lane, and sometimes you just bite off a bit more than you can chew. He could have simply ran around and sacrificed his mid lane HP's tower, his tower's HP, but he decided to sacrifice his own HP, and that's going to end up costing his life.
So the gold lead still very much in AL's favor, almost 3,000, and they do now have the Ocean Soul point. But IG finding avenues to keep themselves alive in this game. Rookie picking up his second item in now the Luden's Echo alongside the Leandri's Jwei on the Ambessa, also looking very powerful at this point. The problem is, the rest of the map not looking so good. Flandre has a big lead, and still Photic really has been unable to get online just yet. Still not at his second full item in almost 3,000 gold behind Hope's Forest.
Yeah, it's so ironic seeing that this cipher is just 0-0-0, yet he's still down nearly 3,000 gold. You can only wonder just how well this Varus has been doing in picking off his teammates, because, you know, I'd like to say Photic has been playing generally pretty well. You know, he's been surviving and evading all the attempts on his life thus far, but he needs some kind of gold generation of his own. He needs kills of his own. He needs more time to get these minions. You know, he's got the new item in here, the Essence Reaver, with the recent buffs that is really strong on Sivir. And he's also decided, he's elected and opted to keep that Elixir of Force the entirety of the game so far. It's minute 20 and he still has the Elixir he got at level 6. So that's pretty amusing. We'll see if he's able to find a way to make use of that at one of these fights later on, because
you know what?
Yeah.
He hasn't fought anyone yet, so why even bother?
That's a good point, man.
He's just been sitting clearing waves and, you know, trying his best to at least keep up a little bit in the CS department. I mean, I think Photic was one of the bigger question marks that a lot of people had to replace Gala here on IG. Definitely not this team's initial plan at AD carry, but with Gala going over to JDG, they needed a solution. Photic has played with Rookie before, and so that was the decision that they made. Had struggled very mightily in these last couple of years as a player, and he's going to be a big question mark, and right now not answering it too well at this point. We see the Baron, which now spawns 20 minutes, by the way, started up by Anyone's Legend, although not super seriously. Tarzan and Kael look like they are hunting and trying to catch out any stragglers at this point, and Jwei might be one of them as he face checks this bush. He's controlled by a control ward, and Tarzan will go into the flag and drag onto Jwei. All of a sudden the Baron's at half HP, but AL instead fishing for a fight. See Flandre tunneling over the wall to issue a little bit of poke damage, and back underneath the Baron pit they go to try to control the vision game once again.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Baron does once again spawn at minute 20, but I really like the direction that Riot went in making the Baron much more powerful. It reduces everyone's armor and MR, kind of similar to how Otacon did, not quite to the same degree, but if you're sitting there chunking that Baron, DPSing that Baron, you're just going to get weaker and weaker. That Baron is just that much stronger. It's going to chunk you. It's that much harder to kill. You know, they do have some of the best Baron taking champions in the game, with Azir and with Jarvan being able to buff the Azir's attack speed. Azir even opting for this build that I really am a big fan of, the double magic pen with the Sork Shoes Shadow Flame. It's really, really effective because you get the free Sork Shoes grapes. All you have to do is spend 1,100 gold on your shoes, and as soon as you complete that quest, boom, you get like an extra 1k worth of stats with your Sork Shoes getting buffed up. So that is really, really nice.
As the dragon, that would be the soul for Anyone's Legend, spawning in just about 10 seconds time. If you thought it was hard to kill Flandre, hard to kill Tarzan, just imagine with all the extra healing that they would be able to get with the addition of that soul. IG desperate to try to save things here and make sure that does not go over this early into the game. They have good tools at their disposal, but the dragon is already ticking very low at 3,000 HP, and IG are in no position to contest, and this dragon is just gone. Now, can Invictus Gaming win the fight? Tempered Fate gonna get spell shielded by Photic, and he's gonna be able to keep himself alive. Meanwhile, Flandre face tanking Soboro and Jwei and winning in the 2v1 situation. In goes Tarzan with the Flash Cataclysm onto 2, finds the flag and drag onto Photic, but he goes way too far forward and is taken down by Rookie, and IG can now go on the offensive. Shanks goes in, lands a two-man Shurima shuffle, but will get taken down, and Hope still untouched, but it's Photic suddenly coming to the rescue. He gets himself a double kill before finally getting taken down by his AD carry counterpart. It's a quadra kill in for Hope, and Anyone's Legend get the soul, and they win the team fight on top.
it just speaks for itself, man. Crazy is our game. You know, I really thought that wasn't even worth fighting anymore as IG, you know, as soon as you hear that strum of the instrument, which everyone knows all too well when it says, dun, the enemy team has slain the Dragon Soul. You don't want to fight after that, but IG, they did posture forward. They did say, all right, let's see what you got. Let's see how well you can click, what inputs you got for us. They were just being really cheeky here, trying to keep the tether going. And, you know, I think Tarzan, he kind of through here going just a bit too far with this flag and drag, gets completely devoured and one shot here. But eyes on Shanks. Watch him dodge this Ambessa ulti. He hits Ambessa ulti with his E. Flash R's completely one-shotting those two champs with all his magic pen. But somehow Photic cutting towards the enemy nexus, just completely dishing all the damage he possibly can. And look, he's glowing red. He finally popped that elixir grave. And that probably did help him take out Kael and keep that Baron alive.
Uh-oh, another fight breaking out here. Photic just gets caught out by Tarzan, and the tempered fake gonna just make sure that his Jarvan stays safe. Nice job by Kael to get a big kill onto a player in Photic that finally showed up to a team fight, but still going to get punished regardless because Hope is just so far ahead at this point. 9-1-2, as now it is anyone's legend without an 80 carry on the opposition. Starting up this Baron, they should be able to take it down.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the soul, this game would be completely winnable right now, but I doubt Jwei can steal this or even play here.
He's going to use the ulti to try to get into the pit, does not find a target, instead getting knocked up by Flandre. That is the Baron secured by AL, and in the meantime, it's Shanks assassinating Rookie on the other side of the fight. Soboro goes down, Hope picks up kill number 10, and 11 at that. It is a full wipe for AL as they will march into the mid lane after taking down Baron Nashor and winning game 1 of this best of 3 against IG.
Yeah, and sometimes you just look at KDAs and you wonder, how did this guy get so fed? And you think back to the outplays that Hope made down under his bot lane tower. First outplaying Jwei, then outplaying Soboro. It's those kind of things that can build the snowball and lead your team to victory here, Grapes, and AL is going to seal the deal and take game 1 off of IG's hands.
In their first game of 2026, could not have asked for a better start to the year, just like they finished the last. It's AL winning game number 1 in under 30 minutes. And now it's IG. Back to the drawing board once again, losers of now 3 straight games for your Demacia Cup champion.
Yeah, I would think, you know, when we were talking about this in the pre-show, is like, IG did win the Demacia Cup. Now, of course, not every team was fielding their starting players. You know, it's more of a show match, but we were wondering, IG was looking pretty well with Renard, and of course, Rookie is Rookie, so who am I to doubt what Rookie is capable of? But it's just that we haven't seen IG being able to really get across the finish line, you know. And Rookie, he did make some uncharacteristic mistakes. I think back to when he flashed under the tower to kill the Azir for the 1-for-1, and I kept mentioning about that Darkseal. Not only did he lose the Darkseal trade, he also lost his flash for no reason against an Azir Jarvan and a Bard, might I mention. And I just think that Rookie needs to lock in just a little bit more. He did find some clutch plays later down the line. Being able to get that one death that Hope did have was because of Rookie. So we do have to keep that in mind. But we just need to see Rookie playing a bit more precise, a bit more clean, not really making those sort of huge blunders, if you will, and seeing if the rest of IG can step it up up as well, because if you noticed at the end of that game there, Jwei and Rookie did actually have a gold lead over their counterparts, but it just wasn't able to matter. The soul was in play. There was a 5,000 gold lead in the marksman position, so we're going to have to see something else change quite drastically here if we want to see game 2 go IG's way.
Yeah, if there were 2 words to describe that game, it's bot diff. This is the second game in the last 2 days that Photic and Jwei were frankly outclassed. They were outclassed by Elk and Erha in game number 2 of their series yesterday, and today against Anyone's Legend, Hope and Kael just absolutely put them in the mixer. And Photic had a decent team fight in that last couple of minutes, but other than that, really invisible in this game, and that is a shame, considering some of the performances that we saw from the other members of Invictus Gaming. It was your typical LPL game fulls where there are sometimes moments where Tarzan went a little bit too far forward. Soboro ults into the wrong place and suddenly gets targeted as well in a 4v1. But overall, pretty clean gameplay from AL, and we're going to need to see IG pick things up, especially because it's not like they have any easy sort of schedule. Now that you're in Group Ascend for Invictus Gaming, they're going to be playing against these level of opponents every single time they take the Rift this season.
Yeah, IG has their work cut out for them. I will say this, though, as much as it did appear to be a super one-sided game, just with the 4 Drakes going across, with the 5,000 gold lead in the bot diff, I think that IG does have what it takes to take some games off of AL here. I think that their roster is certainly capable of doing so. I think, you know, Jwei was doing pretty well for himself, building that gold lead over Tarzan. I think Rookie was in general doing pretty all right at beating Shanks out. He just made those mistakes. If he can shore those up, he'll be fine. And Soboro, I think low-key he did perform better than Flandre. So I think we're just going to have to fix that bot diff. If we can at least somewhat neutralize that problem down there, they should be completely fine and capable of winning in this Ascend group, but it just remains to be seen.
It's just a big mountain to climb. It's just very difficult, I would say, for Photic to, you know, step up to anybody right now in Group Ascend. I know he was able to kind of mask some of those deficiencies for IG when they went on their Demacia Cup run, but when they're going to be playing against the best marksmen in the league time after time, day after day, Photic and Jwei going to have to step up if they want this team to perform. You saw some of those metrics right there, very much controlled by Anyone's Legend throughout. And again, this is kind of the same style of team that we saw all of last year. I think there could have been some questions here, Fulls, with Tabe going over to JD Gaming. Is AL going to look the same with a new coaching staff? It looks like, at least so far, they're off to a good start.
Yeah, AL still has that exact same momentum, that exact same potential that we've seen from them from 2025. I think this team can totally go all the way once again in the LPL and internationally. I know this is just game 1, but You know, of course, every team's going to have their hiccups, but overall, they looked really good. And again, Hope just has to be the MVP this game for some of these outplays that he was able to make. He was just so sharp. Every click was a good click in terms of Hope this game. Just that one decisional mistake to die to the Orianna Shockwave later down the line. But I mean, look how well he's cutting them out. He knows not to attack too soon because then they might be able to reach him. Uses his movement speed to close that gap, or rather increase that gap. And, you know, if anything, Grapes, I want to highlight that I think Tarzan actually had a pretty poor performance this game. I think a lot of his deaths were super unnecessary. You know, even when he was flagged dragging into the portal, that death right there, when he died in the mid lane and Photic was beaming them down with the elixir, I think that all three of those deaths from Tarzan were just super unnecessary, and he was low-key getting kind of carried by the rest of his team. So I want to see if he can kind of lock in a bit.
We know that this is a player in Tarzan that loves the aggressive play style, but you know, sometimes, especially in the LPL, you could see moments where people go a little bit too far forward. I think this is one example of that right here. Maybe just thought Shanks was a little bit closer to the fight than he really was. Definitely did not end up working out for him. We've seen moments like this, though, from Tarzan throughout his career, and he's always able to bounce back, and he always ends up being a big reason as to why his team has a lot of success. You know, finally picking up that first title last year, looking to get another one this time around. But of course, this time had a little bit of help from his bot lane.
Yeah, complete bot diff, as we've said. We're going to have to see if that's going to be the same story going into the next game. I would imagine that they want to put a hope on another champion who is able to have that early game level 1. You remember, they were taking teleport on Hope versus the barrier from Photic, and they were still able to force them out of lane at level 1, completely forcing them to recall. And pretty much, when you lose a lane that hard, it can honestly be like a straw that breaks the camel's back situation from level 1 almost. Like, with some of these best teams in the world, if you even give them a little bit of an edge or an advantage, they can just completely grow it out of proportion and take the entire game into their hands. So I would not be surprised one bit to see AL go for a similar story, drafting a double range bot lane with as much prio as they possibly can get down there.
It seems pretty clear. The laning phase is where you can exploit IG, specifically on the bottom side of the map, and Hope and Kael able to do that very, very well. I would imagine one of those guys winning player of the game here for this first matchup. Looks like we're getting ready to unveil that award very momentarily, and there it is, Hope.
There he is.
Getting the player of the game, I think very well deserved for the opening matchup of AL's 2026 season.
Yeah, and the Varus, again, he didn't necessarily receive that many changes going into Season 16 with all the crit item changes and the damage adjustments, but the Varus is still the Varus, man. He just has that much range. He's got the poke. He's able to just kite and do whatever it is that needs to be done, starting with the prio at level 1 and just carrying it out through for the rest of the game from start to finish. There was really just no quarter for Photic this match, even being dove under his tower time again by Tarzan. You know, they really played for Hope, and he totally delivered. He is the hope, the beacon of hope for this AL team, and they needed exactly what they got from him this past game.
So a good start for Hope and anyone's legend as they pick up their first win of 2026 over the reigning Demacia Cup champions in IG. When we come back from this break, we'll have game number 2. We'll see if Invictus Gaming can bounce